Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to a new video. Welcome back to my very first reading vlog. It is Sunday morning right now, around 10 o'clock, and I just pulled out the book that I want to read and that I want you to take along with me as I read it. And it is no other than Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book, I feel like there's no way around it at this point. It is everywhere, you see it everywhere. And so it was an easy choice to make, to pick this as my first reading vlog video. So I will, just take you with me as I read along. I'm not sure how much I should say going into this, but let me tell you this. I watched a video of the author where she was a guest at Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. And when asked how she would describe her book, she said that every time she gets asked this question, she panics because it's very complicated, it's very tough to summarize. And so I'm just going to use what she said in the interviews. She said to her, the book is about love, video games, art, and time. And also she's saying that the book is trying to answer the question, what if the most important person in your life is not your partner or not your children, but is somebody else? And I think that's actually very great way to summarize it. I love it. So that's what I'm gonna leave you with here. I'll say more about it later once I started reading. And I promise I'll try not to spoil anything. If you haven't read the book yet, I'll tell you if I do. I'll announce it. I'll I don't know, have like a little slogan or something that says spoiler incoming, but I'll try not to. So I can't wait. I'll start reading a little bit now. I have a plan to go outside in a little bit to watch the runners that are running the half marathon this weekend in New York, but I'll read a little bit and then I'll give you an update. So see you later. All right, update number 1, and I want to start with bad news. I'm so sorry, but I hate myself. I put lotion on my hands and I touched this book, and now I have a permanent mark here of my lotion finger. And so it's not great, but I will survive. But take this as a warning, do not use lotion and touch your books. But that doesn't matter. Let's talk about this book. So I just finished the first section. I think you might have seen in my little flip through video where I flipped through the book that the book is divided into different sections and each section has a headline. So I just finished Sick Kids, which is a section that is 59 pages long. So I have met now the main characters, which are Sadie and Sam. They're both extremely interesting. I find their stories very unique. They're both from California, from LA, and Sadie is Jewish, she's of Jewish heritage, and Sam is the descendant of Korean immigrants. So very unique, and their paths cross in a hospital when they are children. I'm not saying why they are each at the hospital. They are there for different reasons, but that's where they meet and they bond over their common interest in video games and playing video games. They are very smart, both of them, and their friendship develops. We watch it, but at some point something happens where, Sam questions the reasons why Sadie is friends with him, questions if she is actually a real friend, and leads him to ending the friendship altogether. So we know this background information. We also see Sadie and Sam a bunch of years later when they both go to renowned universities in the Northeast. And all of a sudden, their paths cross by accident in the subway station. So they see each other again after all these years and reconnect, and yeah, we see how they become friends again. So that's what happened so far. I find these characters extremely interesting. I find them very unique, and I loved reading the little backstory of how they became friends and how their friendship had developed so far, with the ups and downs that have already happened to them. And yeah, I love especially their conversations. You can really tell that there's a lot of chemistry between the two of them. The exchanges are fun to read. There are a lot of, they're very direct, and there's a lot of inside jokes and things like that. I love that. I think the author did a very good job, because sometimes conversations in books feel a little, not very authentic, I would say. But here they do, and I love it. Also, since Sadie is of Jewish heritage and Sam is of Korean heritage, I learned a lot about the Jewish culture and also the Korean culture. And there's one fact in particular which I want to share with you, which I think is important even if you do not decide to read this book. And it is about immigration back in the day. It's in particular about Chinese immigrants back in the 1900s. When they came to the US, they were not allowed to work in any field of work. They were only allowed to work in food and in cleaning. And that is why up to this day, there's still so many laundromats, cleaning services, and restaurants that are run by the descendants of Chinese immigrants. And I don't know about you, but I had no idea. This fact blew my mind. It is really, an example of systemic racism, and I think it's important to know. So I love books that teach me something as I read along while I enjoy the story. And this book certainly does that. So I'm a fan. Also, on another note, if you think that you do not like video games, which I don't like video games, don't worry, because in this book, it doesn't matter. It talks a lot about the video games, but the way it's presented and the way you see the passion that Sam and Sadie have for these games, it leads to you being interested no matter what. I have never really been into playing video games, and I can see why a lot of people are now. I love reading about it, and I didn't think I would. So that just on a side note. I also want to mention that there's a video game in here which Sadie herself created. It is called, what was it called? The game is called Emily Blaster, and it is about poems by Emily Dickens. And in the game, essentially, it's kind of like Tetris. There are pieces of the poems falling from the sky, and the player has to shoot the pieces in order so that they create a poem. And the neat fact about this is that this game was actually created after the author published this book, and you can play it for free on the author's website. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. I played it for a little bit, and it's just a fun, neat, interactive aspect that this book has. So that's all I wanted to say for now. I'm really enticed. I love everything. I have no critique, and we'll see how it continues.
All right.
Hello again. It is now Sunday in the early evening, and I have decided to quickly record another sequence here before the sunlight is completely gone. And I have read some more this afternoon, and I have finished about 1/3 of the book. And what can I say? I am loving it. I love it so much. Let me just give you a quick update. In the last chapters that I've read, Sadie and Sam are essentially working on a video game which is called Ichigo, which has also been mentioned in the synopsis here. And it's funny because I thought when reading the synopsis of the book that Ichigo was a movie. It just says the blockbuster Ichigo. I didn't really realize that it was a video game, but yes, that is what it is. And that's what they've been working on in the past couple of chapters, and they have completed the game now, and they're about to bring it to market. So that's where I'm at, and Yeah, I'm at the point where the cover is starting to make sense. Now I'm in the part of the book where I know what this is presenting, and I have held off on showing it to you thus far, but I want to talk about it because I love this cover, I love the waves, and yeah, it has something to do with the video game they're creating. And it's basically a graphic from the game. And so I love that when the cover is starting to make sense while reading. I also can say now that I have heavily suspected it before, but now I know for sure Gabrielle Zevin, the author, she is a big fan of video games, gaming, and yeah, although I have never really been much into video gaming and never played much, I am so amazed. I am so amazed by this world that I had not really known much about before. I mean, I now see how video games are really a piece of art, how much thought and how much work goes into creating these games, the graphics, the design. So it is really a form of art. And also I can see how meaningful these games are for the people that play them. And it's not just a way to pass time, a sort of entertainment, but it can really be escapism. It can be a way to work through rough times in your life. And yeah, the main characters in this book, Sadie and Sam, are great examples of how this can be the case. And I think it's amazing when a book can show me a world that I didn't know before, which is in this case gaming, and really make me understand it more. So I love that. Another thing that I want to say that I forgot to mention in my first sequence that I recorded is that so in the present in this book, we're in the year 1996, 1997, and I love all the pop culture references. So if you grew up in the early 2000s or in the 90s, you will find a lot of little Easter eggs in here. And I've read about, for example, Tamagotchi or Nintendo games like Mario, Super Mario. And so if you grew up in that time, you will find a lot of things in here that will remind you of childhood memories. So that's something I like also. Another thing that I have to correct from earlier is I said that Sam is of Korean heritage, our main character, and I have to correct it because he is actually mixed. So his mother is Korean American, but his father is a Jewish American. So he is mixed, and as I said before, different cultures play a big role in this book, especially Asian cultures in America, and I learn a lot. And there's another quote in here that I would like to read out that just stuck out to me. So give me 1 second to find it. All right, here we go. What was amazing to Sam, and what became a theme of the game he would go on to make with Sadie, was how quickly the world could shift, how your sense of self could change depending on your location. As Sadie would put it in an interview with Wired, the game character, like the self, is contextual. In Koreatown, no one ever thought Sam was Korean. In Manhattan, no one had ever thought he was white. In Los Angeles, he was the white cousin. In New York, he was the little Chinese kid. And yet, in K-Town, he felt more Korean than he ever had before. Or to put a finer point on it, he felt more aware of the fact that he was Korean and that was not necessarily a negative or even a neutral fact about him. The awareness gave him pause. Perhaps a funny-looking mixed-race kid could exist at the center of the world, not just on its periphery. So yeah, for some reason this little abstract gave me food for thought. I had to pause a little bit, and it made me think. And I totally agree with this. And the author, Gabrielle Zevin, she herself, her background is pretty similar to the main character in this book. And I resonate with it too, because so I speak different languages, and when I speak German or when I speak English or French, I think that my character shifts a little. I think that, in English, I'm a little different than I am in German. And I believe I have read something on this, and I'm sorry, I cannot quote any scientific source right now, but I think I've read that, when we speak different languages, we assume different characters. And isn't that interesting? Like that we are really shifting who we are depending on our environment. So this point in the book really got me thinking. I want to say one more thing. And there has been one scene, I don't want to go into detail, but there is this one scene where Sam, the main character, has an accident, and he already has some physical disabilities. And I found it very meaningful because it showed that defeat and success are really close together. You can be successful in 1 second, and in the next it can be defeat, and vice versa. And I think this is another theme of the book. I'm expecting that this is going to happen a lot, where we are really on highs and then we go down to the lows. That is what I'm thinking right now. And we have in the book one character in particular, who I'm thinking will be responsible for a big defeat. I don't know if sometimes you read a book and you can just tell this character is going to cause a big problem sooner or later. They're already kind of a troublemaker, but so far they're still holding back, but I can just tell. And so I'm excited, but also a little fearful to see what's going to happen, but I cannot wait. For those of you who are reading, the character's name is Dove. I think that this character, is someone to watch out for. So I'll see what's gonna happen, but yeah, for now, I'm gonna say goodbye and talk to you soon. Guys, I am not okay. I am devastated. This book is devastating me. In particular, it's this section that's called the NPC. I read it last night and it just changed everything for me. To be honest, last night I was laying in bed and I was very tired. I had read up to this point and I was thinking, okay, do I give you guys an update now or do I read some more? And I decided, okay, let me just read some more and then I'll give them an update in the morning. And so up to this point, I was actually thinking that okay, I'll talk about probably Sadie and Sam, how their relationship is going, how they're driving me nuts because none of them is talking to each other about their feelings. There are a lot of issues that could be resolved if they were more outspoken about their feelings and issues. And I hate when characters do that. So there was one thing on my mind. I was actually thinking that the story had slowed down a little bit. I was maybe getting a little bit bored. And so I wanted to talk about language, all those things. And then I read this and everything changes. And my goodness, I was not prepared. I asked for something to happen and I got way more than I bargained for. I kid you not, I was crying when I finished this chapter. I could not go to bed. I certainly couldn't talk about it yet. I couldn't film a video. I was just devastated. I had a very rough night. And yeah, it's in the morning now. I have recovered a little, so I'm ready to talk. But this was not easy. This was so tough and beautiful at the same time. To me, Gabrielle Zevin just created something here that was perfection. This section was perfection to me. And it's not even about Sadie or Sam, the main characters. It is about the side characters who, to be frank, I didn't really pay much attention to throughout most of the book, and who I definitely didn't think I had that many emotions for, or that I would think, that I would be affected by that much. But I was, and something very unjust is happening to this character. I mean, reading this, you just start thinking about the injustices in this world, and yeah, I see what Gabrielle Zevin did here. I mean, she is making some political statements. What this chapter is talking about is very much up to date. It shines lights onto issues that are very present in our society, that have been on the news for a long time, and nothing seems to change. So it is a tough chapter to read, but my goodness, I can see now why this book is so hyped, why it's so popular. And I want to give it 5 stars right now. Like, I could stop here and say 5 stars. This was perfect to me. And even honestly now, looking back, the chapters before, where I felt like things are slowing down a little, I'm starting to get a little antsy for stuff to happen, were also perfect because they made this part seem so much more important. It had so much more impact. So I don't know what to say, except for, I'm speechless. The narrator in this chapter changes too. I wanted to mention that we are all of a sudden in the second person narration, and it's also something that fits. It's something you don't read much in fiction, you don't see much in fiction, but it fits here. Um, the writing style is very poetic. I just love it. Many metaphors, I can say the word. And yeah, so I don't know what else to say. I mean, I was crying last night, as I said, and if you read this book, be prepared to feel a lot of emotions, to, yeah, read something tough, but that's really important and very up to date in the society. If you've already read it, you probably know what I'm talking about. And yeah, these are my thoughts that I want to leave you with for now. Talk to you later. My friends, it's a wrap. I have finished Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I have read the last 100 or so pages that were left here, and yeah, after this section that devastated and destroyed me, it was a good slowing down again. It was more like a wrap up of everything, of Sadie and Sam's relationship. Conflicts were resolved, and so it was good. It was a slowing down, and this, as I said before, this section for me was really the highlight of the book. So the ending to me was good to catch a breath, and I thought it was fitting because although some characters in my viewpoint or some relationships I would have loved to end maybe a slightly different way, I think the way they did end was authentic and fitted the story of the book. So yeah, it was a good ending to a great novel to me. And yeah, just to wrap it up, maybe I have only really two criticisms for this book. I had nothing to do with video games, and it is really a big topic here, playing games and references to games. So I couldn't always relate, but I did learn a lot about the gaming world and about the emotions that are involved. So that was great. Here in the last chapters, the author in one of the sections tries to do a very different writing style where she essentially takes us into one of these video game worlds and writes the story from the perspective of the video game characters. So that was something to me that for video game fans might be really cool, but to me it was interesting to see, something new to see, but I think I prefer the regular writing style that Gabrielle Zevin used. But nonetheless, I think it has its place. It was just not 100% my taste, but that's okay. Not everything has to in a 400-page novel. And the other thing was Sadie and Sam's relationship. So I was not prepared for the many negative emotions that this friendship goes through, but it was good to see because friendships are not always, or maybe, yeah, shouldn't always be just ups, because life isn't always an up. You know, there are ups and downs, and so I think this friendship definitely has its place. It was great to see it represented in a book. And yeah, those were my two criticisms, but they were really only minor. All in all, I love this book. I love the messages. The author is making a lot of political statements, and I love the writing style. There were so many parts in this book, sections that I highlighted that were very, yeah, beautifully written. I put a bunch of, how you call them, sticky marks in here. So that's always a good sign. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend it to everybody who enjoys following a relationship through time and who is not scared of maybe some downs and ups. Definitely for people who love video games, but even if you don't, there might be phases where you cannot relate as much or you don't know the games, but it doesn't really matter. It opened my eyes to this form of art, really. So I want to really conclude this book by reading a few quotes. I picked 2 and I thought that I would read them out loud to you. And the first one here, I just thought was interesting because it has something to do with different generations and how generations are different in character and, yeah, values too, in a way. And the author, so our main character Sadie is born in, I believe it's the 70s or the 80s. It's probably the 80s. So she's of, I don't know what all the names of these generations are, but the generation that was before millennium and generation, is it Z? I think something like that. And she's talking about these new generations now that she's older. And so she's saying, my class of students talks a lot about their traumas and how their traumas inform their games. They honest to God think their traumas are the most interesting thing about them. I sound like I'm making fun, and I am a little, but I don't mean to be. They're so different from us, really. Their standards are higher. They call bullshit on so much of the sexism and racism that I, at least, just lived with. But that's also made them kind of, well, humorless. I hate people who talk about generational differences like it's an actual thing. And here I am doing it. It doesn't make sense. How alike were you to anyone you grew up with, you know? So yeah, I thought that quote was very interesting. I agree with the author, especially when you look at social media and the activism that's there. There are definitely generational differences, and it's interesting to think of how we all grew up and what formed us and made us the way we are. And yeah, the last little section I want to read out loud has something to do with the title, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, because it is taken from a Shakespearean play from Macbeth. It's a quote from the play. And yeah, that's how I want to end this reading vlog. So I'm just gonna read it real quick. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools, the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale, told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So yeah, that's how I want to leave you guys. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog, and I wish you all the best. Enjoy, and yeah, see you guys next time. Bye bye.